Hello and welcome to Copy That, the series from Quadcast that's all about copywriting. I'm your host Lewis, and today I'm joined by Sam Whitlock to talk all things copy. Sam, thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you on.
Nice to be here.
I'm really excited for our conversation. It's I interview more women than men, so this is like a real are the skills going to transfer just as well? So I just want to get started.
Oh no, I'm rubbish compared to them. I can tell you now.
I'm sure you'll be fantastic. Don't worry. Yeah, so I just want to get started with the first thing that I ask everybody, which is how did you get into copywriting?
Yeah, so I'm one of these very unusual people that went to university in order to become a copywriter. I don't think there's many people like that in the world. I think there's probably only a handful of courses out there, like university courses that have like a copyright. There's certainly not like a copywriting degree, bachelor's that I'm aware of. And if you do have any part of copywriting, it's usually a module as part of a creative writing course. And it's usually, if it's there, it's because the lecturers have snuck it in as a module, and everyone signing up to the course has no idea what it is, and they're just there to write novels and learn how to be screenwriters. But then they sneakily get taught how to write for business as well. But I actually, so I was in my mid-20s and I had just done random jobs for a few years. And I was working as an admin support for a couple of small organizations. One was like a paddle sport charity. The other one was a driving school. And both of them, while I was working with them, ended up having sort of needs around their website. And one needed an entirely new website, the other one just needed things updating, wanted to rank better on Google, and they were just like, can you solve it, Mr. Admin person? And I was like, sure, why not? And I ended up having to play around, trying to wrestle with WordPress, which is absolutely horrendous. I never want to do that bit again. I'm glad that there are designers out there who can wrestle that for me, or just use Squarespace. But I sort of immersed myself in HubSpot articles and various things that were like teaching me the ropes of how do you write for a website, and discovered I enjoyed it, and was like, you know what, this could be a career. Tried applying to a few jobs that were like copywriter type titles, didn't really get anywhere with it, and then thought, I wonder if it's possible to do this at university. And turns out it is just about possible. So I hopped over to Bristol, University of West of England, and then I got taught by two wonderful copywriting lecturers. I also studied fiction and also studied screenwriting, writing for stage and stuff. But for 3 years, I was also taught copywriting, and one of our teachers was a agency owner by the name of Tim Gibson. Very really like one of the best teachers I think I've ever had in my life to begin with, and then just a wonderful enthusiast when it comes to words, and very smart. And I'll pay him later, or for saying that. No, he'll pay me later. That's the one. And then I was also taught for a year by he used to be like group level corporate communication head of communications for this massive company. I'm going to forget the name of the company now. But he was teaching us sort of internal comms and how to send out a message to a whole bunch of employees to tell them that they're being laid off, while also making it not sound like it's a bad thing. So that was kind of like wasn't quite. I'm saying that in jest, but that was like the level of like I was getting taught by him plus this wonderful agency owner, and it was just it was a really unusual and thorough way to get to land in the world of copywriting. Appreciate I'm going long on this answer, but then I also at the same time as studying, I grabbed an internship with a copywriting agency that was local. And then I just ended up staying there for 7 years. So I became their resident copywriter, then senior copywriter, then creative lead. And then I unfortunately left because something's can only last so long. but that was a wonderful time.
That is an incredible journey to getting to where you are now. I think, like, I have not come across anybody that actually studied specifically to become a copywriter. Like myself, I did a film studies degree, then a screenwriting master's, and then it's kind of a roundabout way of learning all different writing techniques to end up in this sort of job. So when you were at university, was it like a specific, yes, I've fallen in love with copywriting and this is what I'd like to go and pursue? Or did you just kind of fall into it through learning what it was and learning how to do it?
Yeah, I think I knew it was a bit of both, because on one level, every writer just really wants to be, a novelist or a screenwriter or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm not gonna lie and say I was dreaming about this age 5. This is a bit more of a career that I've adapted to still, but I think I knew pretty early on, studying and sort of learning the modules, that this is something that I could see myself, at least in the short term, getting paid for, and it being like a good thing, and a preferable option to what I'd done to date. I think the idea of just working in coffee shops and trying to be the next Hemingway, that didn't really appeal in the same way as seeing how many interesting ways I could sell paint, or whatever. Lecturers were pretty good at giving us pseudo briefs. I don't that's not probably not the right word. They would give us briefs that weren't real briefs, but they would simulate. That's a better word. They were like simulations of what it'd be like to work in an agency. And I was like, I could see myself working in an agency. So that was pretty helpful.
I think I always love to ask everybody how they arrived here, because everybody's got such different stories. So to hear that you actually, specifically sort of trained for it and here you are now, that's fantastic. So what do you do now? Are you agency? Do you work in-house somewhere? Do you work freelance?
Yeah, so I am now freelance. I still do bits of work with the agency I was a part of, which is Rent Hammer and Co. But I'm now set up on my own, and I work with a few handful of different agencies, and I have the honor and challenge of trying to win clients directly. So it's which is a fun experience, and I have to learn how to do self-promotion and stuff, which is terrifying. And that's a whole new world.
Yeah, has LinkedIn become your best friend?
Best friend would be a really interesting word. I'm not sure I'd say best friend. I would say maybe confusing situationship is what we have.
There's something there, but it's threatening to become a relationship. Do you really want that kind of commitment?
That's it.
So what was it that made you sort of go, yes, I'm going to take this jump into freelance work and move away from an agency?
Yeah, I mean, I was just really, I think it was a mixture of things. I think one, I wanted an adventure. I think I'd was quite comfortable doing what I was doing, and I think there was two things. I wanted to just see if I could try something new, and I think secondly, I wanted to see what would happen if I changed the pace of how I work. So I think working in an agency, certainly when I was working in an agency, the pace of that you have to work at is very very fast, and I was just interested in seeing the question of how much better could my work be if I slowed that pace down, and could I learn new processes for working and experiment with new ways of approaching briefs or business challenges, and could I just give myself a little bit more time to get to the heart of what people need, or just service them a little bit more, make them feel a little bit more, loved and looked after. And yeah, so it's been a bit of a experiment to see, is there another way to do copywriting to the way I, learned it, or another way of being a copywriter that's servicing other people anyway. So it's been a bit of a journey. I've learned lots I've realized how little I know about copywriting after 7 or 8 years. You're like, oh my gosh, I was taught all this. I've done this in this way for so long, and then I discovered there's all these other people out there who do things in these slightly different ways or approach it from completely different angles. And so just been exposing myself to learning a bit more, experimenting a bit more, and having free reign to do that because there's no one else to tell me otherwise. So
I suppose every day is a school day in an industry that is constantly evolving, and there's constantly
yeah,
new ways of doing things, and with the way that language evolves, and with the way that different audiences respond to different tones, there's always going to be something new that you can learn and that you can use to adapt your writing style to meet with a new and different audience. So within your freelance work, what kind of brief are you looking for? What kind of brief do you like before you get started on a piece
yeah.
of work? Do you like something that's super detailed and super focused, or do you like something a bit vague?
So it depends upon my mood a little bit. If I'm feeling pretty tired, I just want someone to give me a really detailed brief that I can just do quickly and easily. But that's not my real answer. That's just me, in um
On a Friday
that's
afternoon,
just the reality. That's a
yeah.
free on a Friday afternoon. Yeah, exactly. So um my actual sort of answer would be like, so when I was agency side, we had a client that came to us and got to know us a bit, and they didn't really have a project in mind for what they wanted to do. They were just like, you seem like you do good work and you could really help us somehow. And then so they really asked, what fun could we have together? What's like a fun thing we could do? And which is a really interesting way to start a business relationship. And I mean, I think it's actually a really helpful question, bizarrely, because I think when you ask, what do we need? You often look for, okay, what's an existing solution out there? What have other people tried before? How could this solve the problem? But when you ask, what could be fun that we could do? It sort of pushes you away from all like the safe, predictable ideas, and makes you take a step back and really just assess the whole of an organization and go, where's like, I guess you're still kind of looking for needs to meet, but you're approaching it from a different stance, I think. And we ended up sort of creating a full brand strategy for them. I don't think we even called it that. We just said, here's some ideas. Here's some thoughts for how you could move ahead with, and we sort of created a whole like idea for their public image. We suggested we're a copywriting agency, like a pure play copywriting agency, but we were suggesting ideas for design, things you could change about the employee experience, the aesthetics of your work environment, all to sort of like build towards this. We just wanted to, so that the company was basically worked in waste management. Like they were quite they're quite innovative and quite techy about it, but they effectively were working with human waste. So it was pretty like in one sense the deck was stacked against us on that level. But we were like, how do we make this place seem like an incredible place to work and a place that people love coming to work, want to jump aboard when they see a job advert for it. When they get to the company, they just love being a part of it. They feel part of this bigger mission that the company's on, and words were a part of that. And that was fascinating. That was a wonderful challenge to solve, I think.
Yeah.
And it was just a wonderful open brief. So I don't think we'd have ever got there. They just come to us with their list of needs, and but because they were like, what fun can we have?
I imagine with a waste management service like that, there is a lot of fun to be there, and it's like, how can you sell that properly without like swearing and without,
Yeah, right.
like the ideas that come to mind immediately, it's just like, okay, well, I'm not going to say it, but it's
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
like that's the sort of thing that comes to mind straight away. So how do you then sort of balance? I need to be able. How do you balance still
Yeah.
being professional with still being like tongue in cheek and
So
trying to have fun with it?
yeah, I mean, so one example which I love. This is the moment that always. So I had this idea for we were thinking about like having like murals or
Mm.
like not animated because they wouldn't be animated, but like sort of animation style cartoon drawings like all across like the workplace, and little reminders of like playful reminders of like the personality of the brand, sort of a bit like that, octopus energy, sort of octopus. You can just imagine like lots of the, they're very good at decking out their workplaces with, their playful mascot.
Mm.
And so think about mascots, and one thought I had was you could have, as because you approach, okay, so I mean the elephant in the room, it when you, I mean it's not that much of an elephant in the room because everyone talks about it as well, but it is, you approach the workplace that you're going to, and the first thing you notice is the smell, because obviously that's what you notice. And so, I to be honest, I don't actually know if they did this. They might not have actually followed through on this. But I suggested what you could have is you could have a couple of characters on a wall as you approach, and one could be saying, "What's that smell?" and the other one could say, "It's the smell of ingenuity." I just thought that's frankly why I do this job.
That's perfect. It's the smell of success.
Exactly.
Oh, that's fantastic. So so working within these sorts of projects, whether it's from you being working with your agency or whether
Yeah.
you being freelance now, how will you usually get started on something? Do you like to brainstorm, or do you like to sit and plan, or do you like to go and visit and see what the smells are before you can really get in a
Yeah,
creative
I mean,
headspace?
that's now a key part of all my research is I have to smell your workplace. It's Yeah, no. So I mean, most of the time, unless so I'm based in the Southwest.
Mm.
Occasionally, if I'm got a client who's also Southwest, I'll go visit them in person, and that will be how we kickstart things, and will. And if that's the case, I'll usually go along. They'll have talked to me about what they need. I'll go along basically with a few ideas, and I'll just be like, I don't really. I'm a big fan of like prototyping these days. Like
Mm.
I'll quickly just build like a thing. I'll write something, just anything about their company, or something for them to just to like at ideas around with me with, so we can sit down and go, yeah, what do you think of this? And sometimes they actually go, oh, that's actually pretty good already. But sometimes they're like, no, that's not it. What I actually want is X, and what we actually need to say is Y. And I just find that's a very helpful starting point. So we're already talking about tangible words on the page, and what things are going to look like. But if I'm not but perhaps even before that, if I'm just thinking about like how do I even get to that stage where I've got some ideas, I'll first just take in as much context as I can. So research obviously the client, their competitors, the market. Sometimes I'll have an idea of that market already because I've worked in it before, but just amass all the context, and then I'll drop everything, go for a walk with a notepad, and let my subconscious do the heavy lifting. Yeah, I'm kind of done with the days where I would just then like open a blank Google Doc or Word document and try and like force some kind of creativity onto the page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be walking, let my mind like draw some connections that I wouldn't have otherwise thought of, and then jot some ideas, and eventually I'll make it to the Google Doc.
There's nothing more intimidating than that first blank Google Doc where you just look at it and go,
Oh,
"Oh my
worst.
god, I don't know what I'm doing." It's intimidating. It's scary. It feels like I'm being bullied. Um, so, within working within your freelance work, do you feel that you've got some kind of natural voice when it comes to your own work, or do you prefer adapting it to meet with client needs and client requirements, or do you like there to be a bit of Sam in there?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I think so. I've got kind of two takes here because my first thought is that I've worked as an editor, when I was agency side, and I would see a lot of different writers work, and I would give them tone of voice guidelines, but no matter how good they were at tone of voice, I'd always be able to tell who'd written it, because I think everyone's got like a little bit of themselves or a little bit of like stock phrases they reach for, and so on. Um, and I think I've got the same as, I've probably got like these these familiar ways of phrasing things, familiar sentence structures that I'll probably reach for, and so that probably I will inevitably subconsciously bring that to the table, and I want to actually try and filter as much of that out of the equation as possible, because that's just sometimes it's just I'm leaning on that as a helpful shortcut. I use the word reckon a lot for some reason. Like, rather than I think, I'll say I reckon. And I mean, I quite like the word, but I feel like that's like, so that's one side of it. But I try and filter that out and get more into the client's tone of voice. But I think there's also the other side of that is probably, so rather than just like my reflexive, this is my, standard software as a service voice that I, adapt to every time I write a blog for a company selling efficiency related things. There's also like if I'm more relaxed and I'm feeling like more creative, I've got this more natural, playful, whimsical, I'd even call it, voice that some of my clients really actually need me to tap into. So yeah, certainly when I'm writing for myself and my own brand, that's the voice that I try and get into. But I also try and bring it out, even if it's like quite a serious subject, or even a dense sort of industry. I'll try and bring at least a little bit of that to the table. Yeah, it's I think because the other part of this is, like, I've worked with another writer for a few years, and she is wicked smart and wicked funny. And if you're just in a WhatsApp chat with her, the sort of jokes and humor and smarts will come thick and fast. But when she's writing a blog post, she'll have this adapted style that's actually a bit more standard B2B sort of writing.
Yeah.
But I found like when I saw her best work, it was because she was actually bringing a bit more of that, snappy WhatsApp style chat into her other writing. And I kind of want to do that for myself and bring that more playful side of myself into what I'm doing.
I find that I've got quite a within my own work, it's playful, yet it's somewhat sarcastic. I think I've got quite a sardonic sort of demeanor, so that to me is really hard to leave at the door, because it's like learning to write in this really corporate style was so bizarrely unnatural for me. I mean, to the point, like, when I was at university, I was writing assignments and essays within this voice that was constantly being critiqued, and it's like, just couldn't help it at the time. And it's, by the time I was doing my master's degree, it was being applauded, so I was like, oh, I'm being praised for this, and now I work as a copywriter and I'm not being praised for it. What on earth? What am I supposed to do now? It's I think there's nothing. I think it's the mark of a good writer is when you're able to adapt your tone to be able to meet with something that requires something entirely different, or to meet with a brand whose brand voice is completely different to your own. And it's a challenge, but I think it's also a fun challenge to just really stretch what you know that you're able to do. So it's a great skill to be able to have. And so within the projects that you do for all these different brands and all these different clients, is there a type of work that you find that you enjoy doing more so than others?
Yeah, definitely. So I almost gave you a sarcastic answer there, but I'm actually going to part that. The thing there's probably a couple of things I really love doing. The first one is I love, probably you'd call it, solving communication challenges. So where, like, the goal isn't, oh, we need some words on a page to go here because we're doing this content marketing campaign and we need this asset and that asset. Like, for me, that's not like very interesting to get involved with. I mean, I do it, by all means, pay me to do it, but it's not my most fun place. I'm more interested in if brands come to me, and they might actually come to me with a standard copywriting brief, but I'll try and shift the conversation so it's more about how do you need to shift the market conversation, or how do you, is your employer brand attracting the right kind of people, and how do we, maybe change that? Or are you getting are your clients the one coming to you, the ones that have the budget to pay you enough? Or how do we attract those higher paying clients? Or people always seem to confuse you between as like this other thing in the market when you're actually this thing. How do we make them instantly recognize you for who you are? Like those kind of communication challenges, they're really interesting. I think also I still love just plain old writing, but that tends to be when a client is looking for something that's not trying to please an algorithm. It's, they're really looking to create something that their audience will love and find delightful. So I've got one brand I work for at the moment is called Yes Friends. They're an ethical fashion brand. They're trying to make ethical affordable, which is, pretty cool. And I just get to I write their almost weekly emails that are just stories and humor and playfulness, and the real we're really writing to entertain. We're writing to entertain and also, get them aboard a mission, get them invested in what we're doing, and buy things, obviously, buy products. But it's coming from a place of how do we make this, every time they get an email in their inbox, they're like, ooh, an email from Yes Friends, I'll open that. Even if I'm not wanting to buy something, I'll just read it, just because it'll be fun. It'll be a fun time. I love writing stuff like that, where people really have like a vision of the kind of experience they want their audience to have every time they interact with them.
Yeah, I think there's nothing. To me, it's so important to feel like you're entertaining and engaging the audience. It can be a really sort of hard line to toe sometimes, because it's like, if you're writing a piece that isn't going to be the most entertaining thing, at least make it engaging. If you can find something that's going to be a happy confluence of the two, then that's absolutely incredible. It's a tough old thing. So, do you, obviously you mentioned at university writing, screenwriting and novel writing and fiction and whatnot. Is there anything that you do outside of work that you still keep up on, or do you kind of reserve writing as a work thing now?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, I am 50,000 words deep into a novel that I am trying to create more space and time to work on. It's always pretty damn hard. Actually, I mean, part of why I went freelance was that I could create a bit more time to do that. Hasn't worked out that way yet. But it's yeah, I still love writing stories. And I've been doing a bit more poetry recently this year. Which has been fun. Reading a lot of Mary Oliver, and who's ridiculously stunning. Yeah, it's also a little bit less effort and intense, right? It's intense concentration. I can just scribble down some ideas and come back to them later. Just trying to write a whole chapter of a dense work of fiction is much harder.
Yeah,
So.
I've never sat down to try and write any kind of novel, but if I feel like I need to, I don't know, get the creative juices flowing and I've got no time, just like write a quick haiku, just like,
Yeah.
just anything to just keep yourself engaged and to just kind of train that sort of creative brain, because I think writing is a talent and it's a skill, and you need to continuously work on it to make sure that you're really fueling and nurturing that gift. So I want to move away from the work side of things now, and I want to kind of get into the meat of this question. So I'd love to know what your sort of takes on AI tools within copywriting are, and this is a dense old conversation, but I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah. So I got lots of thoughts. I mean, when AI came along first, I used to and people it was in its infancy. I used to say AI is a good replacement for bad copywriting, and it's a bad replacement for good copywriting. And I think that still holds true. I think there's been a lot of companies, or I think there's a lot of companies that have hired bad copywriters, or at least low, fairly, or they've gone to content mill style
Yeah.
companies, and they've been hiring copywriters that don't have particularly high standards, and it's frankly not that hard for AI to match those and replace them, which is sad, but it's sort of happening. But I mean, I think the moment that you are looking for AI to make people sit up and pay attention, or like really get inspired, or really laugh out loud reliably, as soon as you're asking them to really evoke emotion and and be original at the same time, that's where it gets really hard. So I am actually using AI tools quite a bit, because I want to learn what they're good for
Yeah.
and what they're not good for. And I'm finding they're pretty helpful for grunt work. So one thing I do is, or I started doing, which is really helpful, is I'll just, as I'm walking or as I'm going through the day, I'll voice note, like I have a little voice note on my phone, and then I'll share the transcript to Google Docs, and then I'll get AI to tidy it up, so that I've kind of got like some thoughts that are already like a bit distilled, a bit almost ready to, like, they're not, I haven't gone to AI, please write a LinkedIn post for me. But to be honest, as soon as I do that, as soon as I tell it to be creative with the thinking that I've given it, it gives me junk. And I wish that wasn't the case, because quite frankly, I hate self-promotion. I hate posting on LinkedIn. I would rather AI could do that for me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it can't. I wish it could, but it just can't. So, I mean, and that's with me feeding it loads of information and, example posts that I've created that I think are good, tone of voice guidelines, messaging. I'm feeding it so much context, and it's still just giving me rubbish, which is reassuring, I guess, for me as a copywriter and the security of my job. But it also means that I can't promote myself as easily as I'd like. So I'm interested. I hope it gets a bit better, but not like too much better. That's sort of where I'm at. Yeah.
I can't say I've ever done it for. I mean, that's quite a genius sort of way of just getting ideas out, voice notes, and then have it tidy up a transcript of that. I've never thought of that. Never come across that. I might steal that idea.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, for me, for me within actual like copywriting work, big no. But within looking for places to go for research and like that's helpful, and working with clients who work in industries that I am not particularly well versed in, that to me is massively helpful, and it's massively changed the speed in which I'm able to do things, and I like it for things like a spell check if there's anything that I've missed, and
Nice.
anything like that. My favorite thing at the minute is just to ask it, like, based on things that you know about me, please like create a picture of what you think my life looks like. And it's always like the most bizarrely strange version of, yes, these are all of the things that I do, but like this doesn't look like me. So it's like most recently I got it to do I got it to just be like, generate a picture of what you think my life looks like. And it was me in like full running gear, because I did a marathon at the beginning of the year, and I was asking it all about like training plans and stuff. And there was like a sad looking golden retriever next to me, because I was looking up information on like what depression looks like in dogs, and just like there was like cookbooks and stuff around me from when I've like looked for recipes, and I was like, oh my god, like all it thinks I do is eat and run. Like it was great.
Nice.
Yeah, it's that's a fun exercise that I would really suggest everybody go and do, because it's like it gives you this real impression of like, oh, like this is what this has learned about me, and yeah, it's. I struggle with this idea of like, do I give it more information about myself or do I not? And I kind of landed on don't. It's to me, I'm just like, I want to give less techno. I want to give fewer tech companies my personal information. So just it knows enough about me for now unless things change. But yeah,
Nice.
I think such a loaded conversation to have, and I think copywriters specifically sort of have very specific answers to that sort of question, because there's this inherent, fear of, is it coming to replace jobs? And it's, as you say, it's not. I don't think it's ever going to be a replacement for good copywriting. It's always going to be a replacement for bad copywriting. And it's, the work that it's able to generate isn't anywhere near as good as what a human writer could generate on their best day. But it's a tricky conversation to have. I don't think it's like a fear-mongering worthy subject, but also I think it's something to be super just cautious of, because we don't know where these things are going. We don't know what else they're going to be able to be capable of doing. I was reading something the other day about the first AI MP. I thought, why? No.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder whether how much of an improvement or a detriment that would be.
Well, I mean, I suppose it depends on who's programmed this tool. I mean, if it's someone from
true.
Reform,
That's very true.
That's not
a happy time, is it?
No, that's not something I would look forward to or welcome. So yeah, you just hope that as things in the world without getting too political, get progressively further to the right, there is able to be some kind of apolitical, unbiased, programming within these tools and within these LLMs that are going to not go super fascist on us.
It's good. It's good to talk about the apocalypse, every now and again.
Yeah, it's great. I'm a big fan of the Terminator films. So, I think if we can avoid getting to that point where it's, Skynet and time traveling Arnold Schwarzenegger, then that is great. Let's avoid going there.
Nice.
But, I was talking to somebody not long ago about the possibilities of because me and my partner, we'd been watching Futurama. We moved into our new house and we just was sat and watching it just so there was something on. And we started talking about robots and AI within the depiction of 1,000 years from now, and depictions of that, because the robots and the AI within Futurama all have a specific purpose to them, and they're built for a specific reason. So I wonder if that's kind of where we'll end up heading, where different AI models are used very specifically for different purposes, and they're programmed and built for, car manufacturing, or they're built for, designing the next iPhones. You wonder where things are going to go and how far things will advance. And are they going to advance in a way where humans become obsolete, or are they going to advance in a way where they make human lives generally easier?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
We just need to harness the power of, nuclear fusion, so we can afford to, power it all.
Yeah, exactly. And just hope and pray that we don't blow up the world.
Great. Yeah. That's
hope and pray. Yeah. So on that note, how do you sort of see copywriting evolving over the next few years in the optimistic hope that we don't blow up the world?
That's great. That'd be ideal. I always hope someone would ask me this question one day, because I see everyone making opinions on what's going to happen with copywriting, and I actually try to avoid giving too many opinions, because who frickin' knows? I was listening to Margaret Heffernan, who's this really smart, I don't know what to call her. She's a really interesting thinker and writer, and she was writing about how most people can only, all companies can only predict 100 days in advance. And so we really can't see the future, as much as we'd want to try and predict that. But with that in mind, with that disclaimer, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think there's probably two sides of this. There's what happens to copywriting as a whole, and then there's what happens to content marketing. And I think those are probably a bit distinct. Because I think content marketing seems to be going in one of two ways. I think it's either people aren't going to read what companies are writing on the internet anymore, because they're either going directly to AI. Because why read a AI assisted why read an AI written article on the internet when you can just ask AI the questions you have directly, so I feel like, I think it's already happening. People are going less to companies and landing less on their blog, on their websites and reading their blogs. And so, but if they don't go to AI, I think they're going to individual people and creators and I guess thought leaders as well, who can be, the heads of companies, and maybe they've got ghostwriters working for them, and maybe copywriters are involved somewhere. But I think even in my own habits, I'm going more to YouTube these days for and people I trust for, or that seem to be a face and a person, and you'll be living a life, and they tend to be giving me the advice I'm looking for, or at the moment I tend not to ask AI because I don't want to get in that habit too much. But people are everywhere, absolutely are just asking ChatGPT, what should they have for breakfast? So I think content marketing, the way we've done it, is just going to die gradually, or at least it has to change fundamentally somewhere, because I don't think we at the moment we seem to be in this halfway house where companies are either being faithful to the old model and hiring the copywriting agencies and spending the big bucks to get the really good content marketing machine and working. And I think it will still work for some people, for us, a time. But I think there's also a lot of companies that are trying to do this weird sort of halfway thing where they're just trying to play the SEO game / trying to have lots of content on the internet. They're relying heavily on AI to do it, and I think it's just filling the internet with clutter. And I think the more the internet fills up with clutter, the more people are gonna want to go to these companies less for information, the more that they're gonna go to actual people, the more that they're just gonna go directly to AI. And I think gradually that will shift. I think it'll be interesting to see where copywriters who think of themselves purely as content writers end up. I think there's still a place for them, because they, especially the good ones, will be really, really clever, and they can, be either they'll be able to write about very niche subjects like embedded finance or something, just really writing articles that don't exist online because they're so niche that no one's thought about them, and ChatGPT can't write them because there's no information out there about it. Or it'll be like ghostwriting and writing for these individuals who are becoming the place where people go to. But I also think that there's the bigger copywriting conversation of, well, you can think of copywriting in terms of I think it's often conflated with content marketing, but it's actually way bigger than that, isn't it? I think if you look at the classic sort of 4 Ps of marketing, and it's place, product, I'm going to forget the others, but there are 4 Ps of marketing, right? And promotion it tends to be the one that people focus on for copywriting, and using words to promote what they've already got. But I think there's a lot more place for copywriting to get into the guts of a company, and redefine more of the product, more of the packaging, more of the brand experience that people are having. So I think I think there's a lot of work for copywriters to do in terms of still changing the conversations that people are having, and positioning products so that they really feel different in the market, and not just a more prettily worded version of what's existed before. So I think there's a lot of work for copywriters to do as sort of strategists in the market, and also just, I think the other thing is, as brands sort of abandon the old content marketing thing, the way it's worked before, I think they'll still be interested in presenting themselves to the world using words. That's still going to be a thing. So whether that's, they're sending emails out and they still want this really, or they're doing social media stuff, or they're doing, they're throwing up billboards, or they're releasing something. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a platform that exists at the moment, but I think that there'll be a place for copywriters to really do something special and delightful and curated, and it feels like a brand experience that people want to show up for, rather than like the traditional, I've got a question, I need my question answered, can you fix my problem? Like that used to be that. I think that's copyright, content marketing as it has been. And I think it would be more about, can you delight me? Can you inspire me? Can you take me on a little journey that I'm excited to be a part of?
I think in an age now where attention spans are at an all-time low, it's that sort of like, can you keep an audience entertained and engaged for as long as you possibly can in as quick a time as you possibly can? And that's sort of where I see it going, is just agreeing with you. Just, can we make sure that we're making can we make sure that the work that we're doing is enthusiastic enough to make sure that we're drawing in the audience and keeping them there and keeping them engaged and not losing their attention within the first 5 seconds. It's a tricky thing. It's hard to predict the future. If we could, we'd know the exact answer to that question. But I think content marketing as a whole, there is going to be this sort of shift, and I think it's kind of already happening with advancements in AI, as we've discussed. As I say, it's hard to predict the future. Who knows where it's going to go? Hopefully, I just worry that it's going to lead to a place where sort of junior copywriters and younger people that are coming into this sort of industry, we're not kind of pigeonholing them as like, your own tone and your experiences don't matter. Please use these AI models to do all the work because it's cheap and efficient.
No, it's true. It's true. I think it'll be really interesting. I think, I think it's already quite hard to like find your place as a junior copywriter in the world, but I think it will get harder. But we'll have to find a way to get them involved in a meaningful way. Otherwise, we'll get worse at our craft over time. So
yeah, exactly. And it's as we've said, writing is a talent, it's a skill. You have to nurture that to make sure that it's going to be the best possible version of what you're able to do. It's keep going, and I don't know, without being too philosophical here, it's that's but it's as I say, it's a long. There's a lot that can be said of AI topics and the future of copywriting and the future of content marketing, but it's hard to predict the future, and there's no telling what could happen. Just whatever happens, hopefully it's for the best.
Probably good.
Yeah. So moving back to work-related things just a little bit, I wonder, have you had a moment where you've kind of thought to yourself, or has there been a project that's made you think, like, yes, this is really why I do this job. This is why I do what I do.
Yeah. So, I've actually had like quite a few of those since going freelance again. Like there's been like I've had a really amazing like initial kind of 15, 16 months of doing some really meaningful, fun work. Actually my first project as a freelancer was, it was with an insurance broker, which initially, if I say that, it doesn't sound like, oh, this is going to be like the most fun you've ever had in your life. But it was for an insurance broker that doing some really interesting things with how they hire and how they appeal to, and how they work and how they treat their employees, and the kind of work they're facilitating. You would call them probably a disruptor in the market. But they were having a real trouble about how do they communicate this, because they're trying to appeal to insurance brokers that traditionally the standard kind of insurance broker doesn't like gravitate towards disruption. That's not necessarily why they got into the market. They got into it because they wanted just to do good work for good people and make a good amount of money at the same time. And they were really struggling with, okay, well, how do we hold these two things in tension? There's this kind of where brokers are at and the kind of people that are out there to hire. And there's the difference we really want to make in the industry. And there's this change we really want to make happen. And we want everyone that's working for us to be really inspired by this, and for us to hire people who will be a good fit for that, rather than people who would just want to come for a nice job. So basically, it was like, how do we make this? How do we make jobs seem attractive without it just seeming like, oh, this is like a really good idea for me necessarily. It's like trying to get people to sort of filter themselves out, or opt in or opt out of should they be applying for this company. So it's really interesting because again, it's like that communication challenge that I said I really like to solve. And it was pretty wide open brief. They were just like, well, I don't know how we solve this. How do we solve this? So, and I ended up I did some workshops with them, and ended up pitching them like a brand narrative. Like here's like a inspire manifesto almost of like what you're about and what you're doing. And I also designed a bit of some brand guidelines for how they could present themselves in the world. And I don't know, it was, for me, it was a really interesting project because it reminded me that it was probably the first time where I was like, in a while, where I was like, I can approach this any way I want. It's my first job as a freelancer. I can approach this any way I want. It's a really big challenge. It's important, and I can get really creative with how I solve it. And so I think I love that. I guess it's kind of that was like a real moment of reminding me that copywriting is bigger than writing articles for people. And as much as I still do that, but that was like a real moment of, oh yeah. And I felt like I learned a lot through that experience as well. And it sort of shaped a lot of what I do now. So yeah.
It's just it's really interesting to hear you say it's not just one thing, and it's so much bigger than just a blog, and it's so much bigger than just what we do on the day to day. I think there's so much sort of inherent influence that copywriters are able to sort of have on the audiences that are reading their work, and that is quite a powerful thing to be able to go, yes, like this is exactly why it is that you do what you do. And it could be anything from like writing for a travel company, for instance, if you're writing about a destination and you write so persuasively about it that they go, that an audience goes, yes, that's what I'm going to go there, I'm going to go and do this. And it's a really cool thing. And I think sometimes I really underestimate just kind of how like cool this job is, and just like it's a lot of fun and it's cool, and it's just like you're able to just be creative but also be influential, and that that's a really nice sort of place to land in. And I think a lot of the best writers kind of have influence on other writers' work. And so I'm wondering, off the back of that point, is there a writer that you particularly admire? And it could be anybody from a novelist, a screenwriter, a songwriter, a biographer, a copywriter, anybody.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a few. I mean, purely from like outside of the copywriting world, I am a big fan of Aaron Sorkin, and his films are fantastic. I think Color of Chicago 7 is outrageously well written.
Yeah.
I don't even necessarily think it's the best film that's ever been written, but I think it's one of the best. No, I don't think it's one of the best films, but I do think it's one of the best screenplays. In terms of just like words doing the work. And I also love, because I'm a bit of a nerd, I love Terry Pratchett and his sort of work in the fantasy satire space. He's a real writer's writer. Sort of within the world of copywriting, I admire a few people. One is a guy called Cole Schaefer. Don't know if you've come across him. He does feel like what would happen if Hemingway became a copywriter. It's like very like direct, witty, but not in like quite a, oh my gosh, I don't know whether this guy's okay sort of way. Partly like I'm like literally like this guy could be drinking whiskey all through the day, but he's writing beautiful words. And the other one's Laura Belgray. I know she's massive, and but and she tries to sell me too many things in my inbox, but her emails are just still remain like wonderfully honest and like vulnerable and hilarious. that it's like it's always a nice reminder to me of like, oh yeah, I can get a bit more risky in my writing sometimes. Yeah. So,
Oh, fantastic! I love the. I mean, Cole Schaefer. I can't say I've heard of him.
mm,
That's they're great influences. Everybody else you've named, Aaron Sorkin being like a big
mm,
a favorite of mine. I mean, his script for The Social Network is just like top five ever written. And there
yeah,
was
absolutely.
his film Molly's Game that he wrote and directed was quite
Yeah.
underrated. I think it didn't do particularly well when it came out, but yeah, that's another
Ha-
great one.
Have you ever seen A Few Good Men?
Yes.
That's one of those really old ones, but it's so damn good.
Yeah, just phenomenal work, and it's just the consistent quality in his work is just so
Yeah.
incredible. And he's
Mm,
working on the follow up to The Social Network now, and
okay.
I mean, it's kind of like it's not a sequel as much as it is another film
Mm.
about Facebook that he's writing,
Is it-
and yeah, I just can't wait. I just can't wait. That man, absolutely
No,
incredible
no,
with his words. Yeah, it's a very big fan of Aaron Sorkin. So,
nice.
but moving away from actual writing, so
Mm,
I love to ask this question because everybody's answers are always so different. Sometimes people say they don't like to listen to anything, and yeah, I just love this question. So I like to listen to a lot of film scores as I write this over the weekend and the last couple of days. I've really enjoyed listening to One Battle After Another, the score for the film that just
mm.
came out last week by Johnny Greenwood, and any sort of film scores that he's written and composed. So I'd love to know, do you have any recommendations or highlights of things that you like to listen to while you write? So I'd just love to know, what should we be listening to?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends upon what mood I kind of need to be in while I'm writing. But I mean, I'm a big fan of you have come across Sammy Ray and the Friends. They're
No.
like this. They're this jazz rock band from Brooklyn.
Mm.
Like real Brooklyn sort of accents as well, and just pretty fun. Um, uh like if you just need like a good time vibe and you're like in a bit of a funk as a writer, and you're like, I'm feeling not feeling inspired, not feeling happy about anything I'm writing, just like they will be your good time, they'll be your good mood again. And I think sometimes yeah, just that little shock to the system is pretty helpful. I wouldn't necessarily listen to them all the time while I'm writing, but if I just need to like, okay, take five, let's blast this and then get back to the page. So yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. I've never heard of them. That does sound, but it does sound
Oh
like incredibly up my street. So
yeah, if you ever get a chance to see them live as well, they are probably the best band I've ever seen live. So
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Nice. No, I will go and check them out. That's great. Thank you. So, Sam, this has been amazing. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And I've just got one last question for you, which is, I know you hate self-promotion, but now is the time. Um, where can people find you and your work online? And is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, so if you want to find me specifically, you can find me quite easily on LinkedIn. I'm just Samuel Whitlock. I think I'm the only copywriter called Samuel Whitlock. You can also land on my website, which would be lovely if you do, because it took me a lot of work. And I don't think that many people have seen it yet, but it's samuelwhitlock.com. So that one's easy to remember. That's Whitlock with a Whitlock. But if you want to just have a good time, and you get to read my writing, and you also get like some good deals on some nice like ethical clothing. Go on the Yes Friends website. Yes Friends. Just lap up the vibes because they're good vibes. But then secondly, like subscribe to their newsletter, and you will have a good time. You'll have a good time. I can promise you'll have a good time. So I actually I'm not responsible for writing the welcome sequence that you'll get when you do that. The welcome sequence is separate. It's still pretty damn good, but that one wasn't written by me. But every regular email you get will be my words, and it's that's that'll be a good. You don't have to buy my copywriting services as a result. You just go and have a good time.
Just be
So
entertained by the
yeah,
work, entertained by the
yeah,
words, and have a good time.
that's it.
I love it. Well, Sam, once again, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody go and check out Sam's website and find him on LinkedIn. And yeah, thanks so much for listening. And we'll catch you next time.